Welcome everyone, our Hormone Challenge community. Our goal is to keep this conversation going. We are going to bring amazing webinars every week to you on key topics so that we can keep you learning and engaged in bringing more wellness into your body, into your life. We talk a lot about our now coding is MMMs. And so mindset, movement, micronutrients, our goal is to teach you lifestyle wellness. And with lifestyle wellness certainly comes hormone balance. So initially we started this project with our focus on energy, and it was really a tough call. We wanted to narrow it down to have something to cling on to, right? To build a context around. And so we started with energy because that is the number one health concern or comment in our visits with clients. But also number two, and we try to steer away from this, but we can't hide from it, weight loss. Everybody, so many people want to lose weight. There are some people who are looking to gain weight and they're equally frustrated. They can't gain weight. And so really let's today speak to hormone health and metabolism. And Dr. Keara, and I know Thalia, you believe this too. I have to say it, Dr. Keara, you cringed at this topic because you don't want to talk about weight loss because it's not about weight loss, it's about health. And then we both said, no, we are going to share authentically what our approach to weight loss is. It's no gimmick, it's about getting into real health. And so let's just go through our MMMs applied to weight loss. I'll give you some examples. So mindset being your healthiest mindset when it comes to weight loss. Often people say, well, I won't be fat, right? So, and so we certainly want to transform that wording. And so we might use words like active, trim, fit, light, mobile, enjoying, so try to transform your thoughts on weight into something more empowered, because when you have a real reason and something that makes you feel good and that you connect to, you're more likely to act, not self-sabotage, not feel guilty. So we want you to nourish your body, love your body at all ages, at all weights, at all stages. So a mindset for weight loss. Please put some comments in the chat line right now. What comes to mind for you? If you could, because you can, transform your thoughts on weight. Give us some empowered wording. And movement wise. So what are you going to do movement wise for weight loss? Absolutely, without question. In order to lose weight, you need to have the right movement plan. And so many times in our visits, people are walking. Well, walking is good, and walking is an active endeavor, and it's outdoors, and it is good for you. But when it comes to metabolism and weight loss, it's probably not enough. We don't want you to go hours on end on a Stairmaster or whatnot. We want you to enjoy active movement-based living. And so exercise and other key movements are important, not just walking. And then lastly, micronutrients. What micronutrients do you want to bring in? I was about to say need, but we're moving need to want. Okay, so what micronutrients will support metabolism and weight loss? So we want you every day to set that mindset for metabolism, movement for metabolism, and micronutrients for metabolism. And you'll learn some tips in today's call. So we each wanted to share a message for you about how we approach or what our overall message would be to someone who wants to lose weight. So Keara, how about you jump in, say your approach? What message would you want someone attending here today who's frustrated with stubborn weight loss? What would you say to them?
Well, I would definitely say that you deserve to feel good in your body, right? So if you're not feeling good in your body right now, then there's a way to get you to a place where you feel good. And a lot of that, in terms of like the dietary approach to there, really my approach is that we want you getting to a place where you're fueling your body daily so that you feel good. So you find those foods that fuel you in a way that you feel satisfied after your meals. You feel energized. You don't feel deprived. It's not about deprivation, because deprivation just never works long-term. It always results in binging and just not feeling good. But it's okay, even though I said, yes, I cringe at the thought of coming on here and talking about weight loss, but there's no shame in wanting to lose weight either, right? Like if you want to feel, you deserve to feel good in your body. So if that's your goal, our goal, or my goal, I should say, this is my message, is really about finding a nutrition plan that's just going to fuel you so that you feel good and energized and satisfied after your meals.
Mm-hmm. Thalia, share with us your thoughts, your one message.
Yeah, my one message I think I always try to relay to clients is I try to just say when it comes to weight loss, if we can just get our minds and our bodies properly nourished and supported, and we can kind of make a healthy body and just make that your focus, everything else, like your body will naturally go to its ideal weight anyway, right? And it's like, oh, well, I look better and I feel better. And just as a byproduct, you know, balancing all your systems, you'll lose weight and you didn't even kind of have to try, right? So that's what I try to get them to focus on, other things instead.
Yeah, both of you. Yeah, so great that we want to take your focus off of weight loss. So you're here for weight loss, but we're going to change it. We want to change it to nourishment. And my message actually is it's not all or nothing. And so oftentimes people, you know, I'm going to start my cleanse on Monday. I'm going to, you know, I'm really going to be focused and I have to be perfect for 7 days and then I'll be healthy and fit and light and feeling good again. It doesn't work that way. So, you know, we want you to get to the point where 80-20, we've talked about before in our webinar on nutrition for hormone balance, that if you look at, you have 21 meals in a week, 7 days, 3 meals. Okay, so the main meals. If 3 of those are ice cream, chocolate, restaurant out pizza, and the rest are a good hearty salad or a beautiful one plate roasted vegetable dish with a healthy fish, you know, then that's good. So enjoy that dinner out, right? And so just getting to the point of enjoying your food intake and, you know, not focusing on food. When we're wanting to lose weight, I can think of this for myself too. Just what am I having for breakfast, dinner, lunch? I remember way back, I was always thinking about food. And, you know, when you are in balance, you don't think about food. You think about enjoyment and activity. And so, you know, getting to that place where it's not about the food you eat would be my message.
Love that.
So key questions, what are we going to go through today? Key questions, I'll read them out to you. Or Keara, yeah, why don't you read the list, Keara?
Sure, I'll read the list. This is what we're going to go over today. So which hormones affect your weight and how? Does fasting do more harm than good when it comes to your metabolism? How do you eat for hormone health? And then if we had to focus on one hormone that affects weight, which one is that? How does estrogen dominance affect your weight? And then we're going to chat about blood work to check when it comes to weight management.
Awesome. And we want questions all throughout.
Yeah.
Some really good ones coming in. So we're definitely touching on those. So let's jump into number one. What hormones affect our weight and why? And so we will all say all hormones will affect your metabolism because it's like your hormones are a symphony, right? And so if one instrument is out of sync, it's going to throw the whole symphony off. So we really, you know, certainly there's focuses that we'll have, but all of your hormones will impact your weight in some way. So for example, cortisol, remember that's your inflammatory pathway. And so stress can be mental stress, physical stress, or environmental stress. So mental stress would be your upcoming exam or move. Physical stress might be an injury. So you have you hurt your knee and now you have a inflammation in your knee. And environmental stress might be toxicity. You don't realize that you live right in front of a stop sign and all cars are parking there for a little bit, idling, and you're breathing in more of that exhaust. So inflammation is present in our lives, and cortisol is our natural anti-inflammatory. So if you're stressing your system in all 3 ways and not replenishing well enough, you're going to get low in cortisol. You can't manage inflammation. And going back to my intro here of cortisol belly, you're going to build abdominal fat. So one key route to metabolism and weight loss is making sure your adrenals and your stress response is working well. What's another example of a hormone?
I was even going to say too, with the cortisol piece is like, if you think about it, like cortisol was always released in times of like either you're running away from a tiger or there's like a famine happening, right? So then it actually causes blood glucose to be released from your cells. So then kind of like having the opposite of, you know, it's kind of like releasing all that energy out that you don't need. So also another one that a lot of people are interested in is estrogen and how estrogen affects weight. It is, I mean, it's a very interesting relationship, and it's not like, I mean, so many people are like, oh, I have high estrogen and that's what's causing my weight gain, but actually it's so much more than that. And like we actually see in, you know, menopause, when we kind of get more to that late perimenopause, menopausal time, when we actually have estrogen deficiency, estrogen has a protective effect where it actually keeps our fat more to our hips and our butt area. And then a lot of women will notice the belly fat at that time really increases, and that's the loss of the estrogen. And then when we have a lot of fat cells, they produce estrogen. So that can kind of cause high estrogen levels. So that's again, it's part of that whole symphony, and it is definitely impacts our metabolism as well.
Yeah. Thalia, insulin.
Yeah, I was like, I just cut off for a second. I was like, hello? Where'd you go? Yeah, so the insulin connection to all of this, I mean, it definitely goes back to cortisol. A lot of the hormone imbalances do, because it really is, cortisol is a really good example of too much of a good thing is a bad thing. You know what I mean? So it's kind of getting a bad rap, but that's just because of the stress that we're always under and things like that. And like you said, you know, we're always in that fight or flight. So it becomes chronic, and that's really where the issues come in. So when the adrenals then release all of that cortisol, what's happening is, so it stores as fat, like cortisol makes us store fat in the belly. And then that also increases your insulin levels, blood sugar, like you said, Dr. Keara, right? And just because you're always in that fight or flight, but it releases it to give you energy. But like you said, it's extra energy and extra sugars you don't need at that time, right? And then, so yeah, the high cortisol and the insulin just kind of equals inflammation and fat storage, unfortunately.
And really, insulin is that school bus taking the kids to school. And so if you are in a high stress state, it's almost like the kids can't get to school.
Yeah.
Right? Like that all this glucose is circulating around, but you have no bus to get to school. Right? So you don't have the bus to get insulin into, or sorry, you don't have insulin, which is the bus, to get blood sugar into your cells.
Yeah.
So because your body has to send glucose to all where it needs to go, you can't get it into your cells where they need it for cellular function. So that insulin stress piece, and I mean, it's everything. So that's why if we would just say, and this, you comment on what you think, one hormone, the one most important hormone to address when it comes to weight loss would be cortisol.
Yeah,
Definitely.
Absolutely.
And then cortisol kind of sets up the ripple effect. I'm going to do it, Keara. I'm going to talk about my bed sheet.
The bed sheet. Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, you want your bed sheet nicely rounded around each of the corners of your bed, right? But we've all been there where a restless night's sleep, whatever, and one corner pops up on the bed. And so this corner, when it comes to weight loss, is cortisol. The cortisol corner has popped up. I'm seeing my mouth move at different rates.
Oh no.
I'm talking. So anyway, so the cortisol bed corner has popped up. That's going to then affect all the other corners. So we want to bring that cortisol piece back around the corner to balance out. But if you don't address that cortisol corner, then you're going to have to address different things, right? So go first to the stability one, the one that's going to probably have the most impact and be easiest to address first. And that will have benefit to the other areas.
Yeah. And even with the insulin piece too, like I wanted to also touch on another topic that we love to talk about in terms of like the circadian rhythm and our hormone melatonin. And melatonin helps to kind of dictate the circadian rhythm along with cortisol. And that whole, like the cortisol, the melatonin, the circadian rhythm, it is designed so that our bodies are most insulin sensitive and most primed to metabolize those sugars well in the daylight hours, in like the earlier part of the day. And we see that in shift workers and people who don't get, like they get less than like 5 hours of sleep a night, their insulin levels are greatly impacted the next day too. So kind of making sure that your sleep cycles are good and you're getting exposure to the daylight and your melatonin is set, like all of that can really help to like benefit the cortisol levels, the insulin levels, and everything that's connected there.
Yeah, great point. So the night eating does not help.
No.
That's, you don't have enough insulin absorption at that time.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think people realize that seesaw relationship, you know, that cortisol has with like the progesterone and the testosterone, and how much it really does kind of outweigh the other. When you have high one, you're low in the other. So it really does affect everything.
So finding rhythm in the body, like simple things of consistent meal times helps you create that rhythm, right? Helps you optimize your insulin use, the bus, and eating in certain windows, there is certainly a benefit to that. And we talked another hormone, thyroid and metabolism, just really important to know how your thyroid is functioning and how you can support your thyroid hormones. Liver comes into play there. So even, you know, taking lemon water as a simple strategy to support liver, that can have some benefit to helping your thyroid. That's just very, very one thing, right? But it's those little one things that build up to your overall metabolism. And so when thyroid health wise, I want everybody to check their TSH levels, right? We want your TSH level to be between 1 and 2, and anything higher than 2, you are moving to a more sluggish side. And so let's say you're 2.1, and if you know your baseline and you know your TSH, your metabolism is best at 1.2, then you now being up at 2.1, it's significant, but then it doesn't mean you go to medication by any means. It means you do simple things to bring to support your thyroid metabolism. Could be adrenal support, which has a connection to thyroid, but you want to bring your thyroid metabolism back into that optimal range. So knowing your baselines, which we'll talk about later about blood work, is really important when it comes to hormone balance, metabolism, and weight loss.
Yeah. And even with that thyroid piece too, like the cortisol for sure. And also going back to the MMMs, it's those micronutrients too, because those are what's so important in that conversion of the T4 to the active T3, is getting all those micronutrients in, zinc, selenium, all of those kinds of iron.
Yeah. So, like get your Brazil nuts in for
Brazil nuts, pumpkin seeds.
And I know one client is going to be watching this and was seeing a naturopath who prescribed her Brazil nuts. And she reached a point where she just wasn't seeing results. And she looked at her treatment plan and it says, have 2 Brazil nuts a day. And, you know, it's interesting because on the one hand, I completely understand that this person is so frustrated and that they're seeing their plan but okay, I'm going to add Brazil nuts and I'm going to feel better. But no, there's a place for that. I understand why the other practitioner put that in. And then it's just about connecting the dots, really understanding why certain things, and always seeking more nourishment. So have Brazil nuts and pumpkin seeds. So you have the selenium and zinc, but also let's look at stress, inflammation, adrenal function, blood work. Let's really see what is off.
And knowing like your baseline levels too. Like if it's like extremely off, then Brazil nuts might not do it, but they're a great food to add in daily to keep you just adding those micronutrients in.
Yeah, it's sort of a tricky thing because we want to empower you through food and nourishment, but then that's where conventional and naturopathic medicine does work really well together. There's a place for both.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. Okay, that leading thyroid into fasting was a great topic. I would love to hear your thoughts on fasting. Both of you, Thalia, Keara, like jump in about your thoughts on fasting.
Go ahead, Keara, I'll go after you.
Okay, so my thoughts on fasting, I feel like, I mean, we have to like define kind of what fasting is, because that also means like so many different things to different people, because there is the kind of, I guess what a lot of people think of is that like 16-8 kind of fasting window. So you're eating for 8 hours of the day and then you're fasting for 16. You know, a lot of the data that's done on that is done on men who are obese and overweight. And so they're seeing improvements in going those long stretches of time without eating. So we know that it can be beneficial sometimes for balancing out insulin levels that are very out of whack in that population. Like that's what we have to look at when we look at the data. What is the population that they're studying? So I think it's hard to translate that data over, or those results over to women who, especially women who are still like menstruating monthly and their hormones are changing, I do find that in practice that that window of time can just be much too long for women. They don't feel good doing that because a lot of the times you're getting to the point where you're starving. So by the time you like eat that meal, you can't stop eating. You can't build that satiety for the rest of the day because you haven't been able to, because you just got to the place where you're just beyond it. But that being said, like I also think of fasting as an overnight fast. So maybe like a 12-hour window from your dinner to your breakfast the next day. And I think that can be really, really supportive for women. So I really kind of work with patients and just talking in it like on a one-on-one kind of capacity in terms of maybe they find a window within that kind of 12 to 14 hours that feels really good for them. And then I do think there can be helpful because as we talked about with the insulin levels, like, yes, having breaks between meals is good in terms of like, you don't want to be constantly spiking out the insulin. And then just the last point that I'll say on this quickly is there is a lot of data now and talking about, as I've mentioned, the circadian rhythm of it. So like if you are going to be fasting, then not wait, like eating all your calories at the end of the day, but really eating more like in the daylight hours to balance out that circadian stuff, which is what's in that circadian code book, Dr. Tara, the Bisatchin Panda. Yeah. Yeah. What do you think, Thalia?
No, I mean, honestly, I agree a lot with, I know there's a time and a place for fasting. It's like you said, a lot of people see a lot of really great results with it. And a lot of, you're right, a lot of the research is done on men. And I think maybe that's where some disconnect comes. But as a general thing, I know there's a lot to be said about fasting and I don't not support it. It's just, I think specifically, my only issue with it is when it comes to hormone balance, especially, is because I know how many blood sugar issues can come along or imbalances can come along with hormone imbalances, that I think it's better to just keep a level of consistency. And I always say this, at least right at the beginning, at least until you get a little bit of more of a rhythm back and everything. And then maybe you can increase like, from 12 hours, maybe I did 13 hours and then maybe see how that goes and things like that. So that's what I would say. Definitely at the beginning, consistent.
Yeah, and understanding the time. So just to break that down a little bit further, traditional fasting people might understand, you don't have breakfast, you don't eat until 1 or 12. But if you understand, well, it's about 12 hours between not eating. If you have your dinner at 7 p.m., then you can have breakfast at 7 a.m., right? And then you can extend out from there, or you can not say you're not going to eat anything after 6 p.m. So it is good for your body to go on longer periods of no food. And there's a lot of positive research for complete water fasting. I've never tried a water fast myself, but a few people I know have and just rave about it. And so something to be said for it. Also, as we age, a decrease in appetite is actually life promoting and aging, and so appetite goes down. We're like, as we age, think of your grandparents, they just don't have the same appetite we do, right? And but some people they know who they are. You need breakfast, so you just shorten your window. You shorten your window in the evening time for no eating after 6, and then you see the benefit there. I personally, I just love my coffee and MCT in the morning, go. And I just changes my I don't know. I find it, if I do have breakfast, when I do, because there are like in a week, maybe do 3 or 4 mornings myself, who loves the coffee and MCT, couple mornings a week, you have to have breakfast, right? But the times where I do have breakfast, it really depends on quality. So if I had eggs and avocado, great, right? But if I have, I don't know, a piece of toast with nut butter, I'll be so hungry an hour or 2 later. And so when you start eating begets eating. And, but you can flip that, and then after dinner, no food and go.
Yeah. Like, I love that you say that. And I think that this, like, just the fact that, like, I'm reflecting on how our experience is so different, because I'm the complete opposite of that. Like, if I was to just start my morning with coffee, first of all, I think, like, I'd be like an Energizer bunny, like not able to focus
that's
on
what
anything.
I am.
No, but you're not. And like, all I would be doing is like thinking about food. Like I actually like a carb heavy breakfast. Like, I feel like it brings me down, it grounds me, it satisfies me. So you know, all of you guys listening, like it really is individualized, like for sure. Like there's research on things, there's data. We're chatting about hormones, but really ask yourself these questions. Like, how do I feel when I eat breakfast, a certain breakfast, an egg breakfast? How do I feel an hour after that? If I was having an oatmeal based breakfast, how do I feel 2 hours after that? How do I feel when I get to my lunch? Like, am I starving for my lunch? Or do I feel like I'm in a satisfied place? You know, ask yourself these questions to see how you feel, because we're all going to find our own kind of rhythm. And maybe even through the menstrual cycle too, like maybe more in that estrogen, those first 2 weeks, you have more of a capacity to go have a longer window of fasting, going longer without food. And then in that progesterone phase, right before your period, you really do need to eat breakfast, and you need more carbohydrates. And then maybe that changes through menopause, when you're like, yeah, your appetite's a little bit lower and you feel great waking up, having the coffee and MCT and not having anything until lunch. So
yeah, so great. Like put some comments in the chat line of whether you're a breakfast person, whether you fast, or how long, when do you have dinner, like just create some buzz there for us to see.
yeah.
Thalia, yeah.
Just one nutrition tip I always think about, you guys made me think about it when you were talking about it, especially Dr. Tara, when you were like, you know, sometimes I find when I have, you know, my like heavier breakfast, your toast with your peanut butter or something, that you're hungry a little bit later, right? And sometimes that's also now because, you know, we all know you've sparked your blood sugars and you're all ready to go and like you've started it all, right? So a lot of people don't know about this, the second meal effect. So the second meal effect is where I like to recommend beans for breakfast sometimes, so that essentially what happens is if you have beans for breakfast or you have beans for lunch, let's say I were to drink a glass of sugar water later, which I wouldn't, but if I did, my insulin levels would only come up to about half of what they would have if I hadn't had beans in my system already the meal prior. So incorporating a lot of beans and legumes into your meals can also really help regulate that, so you don't get those crashes and you don't get those cravings. So that helps too.
I see a great blog post or Instagram post, Thalia. Why Thalia likes beans for breakfast.
Beans for breakfast. Such a great source of fiber. So good.
Yeah.
And protein, like there's protein and fiber in there. So, because I always like talk about that too, making sure you're getting like protein rich, your first meal, whether it's kind of breakfast or lunch, but making sure you're getting that protein, because it's satiating and it's blood sugar balancing and insulin balancing.
Yeah, they did research on kids in school where one group had Fruit Loops for breakfast and the other group had eggs, and they tested their cognitive function. And so which group performed better? Obviously the ones with the protein and egg versus the sugar, right? So looking at the nutrient density of your breakfast.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And you know, just Keara, what you touched on for menopause, it's interesting. Now we've done the hormone challenge and now we're into our hormone harmony program. And a lot of comments coming through would be women in menopause realizing, oh yeah, I'm going to document when I feel I want more carbohydrates and see, because you still have a cycle. Your adrenals, you know, so you can still find rhythm. And so I'm really enjoying lately in visits talking about that new moon to full moon to new moon, and helping people create a transition. And I know we've talked about, there is research to say upping seeds, like the estrogenic and progesteronogenic foods. And someone in menopause, they do end up taking estrogen and progesterone support throughout the whole cycle, regardless of the transition. But I actually find it a really good rhythm to teach of 2 weeks estrogen phase. You're going to focus on more resistance training. You're going to focus on more of the brassicas, your estrogen clearing foods, flax. We've said pumpkin seeds. You're going to have an estrogen phase of your month, and you're going to have a progesterone phase of your month. So progesterone phase would be when you have pasta, you have maybe a little bit of bread, you have you do more of your calming exercise. So more walking, yoga, stretching. And so creating a transition in a phase, it's really interesting. And so one woman I spoke with today, we just said, so she's actually taking bioidenticals. And for the first 5 days of the month, she doesn't take the progesterone. So I know, oh, that's okay. That's going to be your designated estrogen time. And so she's going to focus on the estrogen diet for the first 2 weeks of the month and the progesterone diet for the second 2 weeks of the month, which wraps in estrogen exercise, progesterone exercise. And so stay tuned for how people respond to this. But to me, it really makes a lot of sense. to teach transition and rhythm.
I love that so much too, because I feel like it gives, because even the like the food part, but also like you mentioned the exercise part too, which is so cool too. Like you're going a bit harder with your exercise, or at least doing like the resistance training and things like that, and then maybe pulling back and doing more of the like yoga or Pilates or low impact stuff. And like if we're going through so many of our years like in this cyclical nature, then to me it makes sense that like through those menopausal years, which are many years that we still are have beyond, you know, menstruating, that we're still following some sort of a cycle where we're focusing on different things. We're not go all the time, you know, like it's like we're still finding the ebb and the flow. And I think I love the new moon to full moon way of like, you know, if you're not on the bioidenticals that work the way that your patients, you're able to kind of navigate it, then just using the new moon and the full moon to find that rhythm, because you're going with the planetary energy and whatnot.
I know it sounds crazy in one way, but then not so crazy in another.
I think it's cool. Yeah.
So if there was a way, like what else can you grab onto to create rhythm? So yes, sleep, wake, morning, evening, eating during the day, not at the night. Like, you know, seek out all the opportunities where you can find and create rhythm. And then another woman today is menstruating, and she's on day 11 of her cycle. And she said, so that technically would be the estrogen side. But when we went through her MMMs for the day, and so, okay, bringing awareness to it. Okay, so what do you feel like doing today for exercise? And she said, you know what, I just want to do some stretching. And it was great conversation to say, yep, you know what, you're probably moving into your progesterone phase of your cycle. And so honor that craving. So really teaching this fluctuation and movement in terms of food and exercise. Also, mindset can change, right? So you can have your energizing mindset and your calming mindset, and you need and want both for wellness. So now it's yin and yang, and it's not eating perfectly all the time. And what is perfect? Okay, a lot of people will say salad, right? A salad, I need to have more salads, but nope, we're going to bring in some stew. We're going to bring in some hearty soups, and, you know, sometimes maybe some smoothies, like any way to bring more micronutrients, but honoring your how your body is functioning.
And it gives us the permission, like as we mentioned earlier, like how we are all different and we feel different day to day. So by having this practice of the MMMs, and you're tracking your cycle, and you are noticing, oh, I'm in this stage, but I actually don't feel super energized today. Like, that's great. That's information from your body. That's feedback from your body. So like, listen to that, and, you know, change your diet that day, or the exercise you're going to do, or the rest. Like, listen to that information. That's your body speaking to you.
Yeah, I actually loved in our chat line, or the Facebook group, where I had posed the 3 simple questions. And one of the questions was, what phase are you in the cycle? And another question was, what exercise are you doing this week? Or movement are you doing this week? And then Keara, you answered for you. And I thought, oh yeah, okay, what phase am I in my cycle? So even like as we're teaching this, but then right? So we're all learning together, and just, it's awareness building.
It is awareness for sure. I love that.
Yeah. So we've talked about the rhythm of your cycle, and please, you know, if something comes up for you there, mention it in the chat line. And I love, one person said, my hunger and food needs definitely change throughout my cycle. So maybe share what you've noticed and how they change in your cycle. So what those obvious, she's saying there's very obvious changes to her. So share what those specific obvious changes are for you. Okay, so then we've shared our thoughts on fasting. We've talked about hormone rhythms and eating. We haven't really touched on, and we've talked about menopause for that. So it doesn't matter if you don't have a cycle, you can still create a cycle according to the moon or the month. And also maybe you can start to become aware of a subtle cycle you have, because your adrenal glands are still making your hormones. But let's touch on men. And I really found it interesting to note, women have a month cycle, men have a day cycle. And so men want to be highest testosterone in the morning, just like cortisol, right? I'll look at the link of cortisol testosterone, but that's the energy time. And then it comes down throughout the day. So testosterone is coming down. Then you have a workout, boom, you build your testosterone up. So it's like men they want that dip, they're that jump again in testosterone. I find men do, please tell me if this is a cliche, but I find men eat more. They're going to be the ones to have a smoothie, a piece of toast or two, and eggs for breakfast, where we might look at that and go, oh my God, like,
wow, we're a bottomless
so
pit.
much, like, feast for breakfast. But probably they're stimulating that boost, right? That energy when they want the most energy. We all want the most energy in the morning, but there's an effect of that testosterone punch in the morning.
No, it's true. I mean, men, just as a general statement for hormone balance in general, they need at least 2 more grams of protein or like a day for every meal than women do, right? Like they just do need more in quantity just to support what they have, right? So that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And we look at testosterone building foods, and I mean, there's so much to learn or know here, and to know well, we pull in yin and yang foods. So, okay, first off, maca it actually creates more DHEA and testosterone. So maca root in a smoothie, in your oatmeal, in whatever, like that is to promote your testosterone pathway. But eggs, for example, being the more yang building food. So testosterone and masculine energy is more yang, and feminine energy is more yin, and greens and grounding. And so really, that egg, big protein breakfast in the morning is that's why it's promoting more of that testosterone lift.
I meant ounces, by the way. I think my brain just went, I said grams, 2 more ounces of protein. Anyway.
Okay. We got the message.
Yeah, and I feel like that's also why with the men on their like 24-hour rhythm, like they can feel like really good. I think often, I don't know, like my partner can eat kind of like the same thing like day to day. It doesn't like change as much as what like my needs will. Like I am like dramatically like hungrier in certain phases of my cycle and things like that. So just like, and I just like, I recognize that. So I'm not like, oh, I'm going to eat exactly what he eats. Like,
yeah. Why do men get hangry? I think we get hangrier than we do.
I get pretty hangry.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, I agree. It does happen.
It's unique to each person.
Yeah.
It's gender neutral.
Exactly.
Okay, so we have more information on that. So week 1 and 3, is a person who notices the rhythms of her cycle. Jamie. Okay, so week 1 and 3, higher healthy fats, and week 2, increased protein. So that's that transition of estrogen to progesterone. So needing more proteins to make that transition. And then week 4, increase in everything with additional carbs. Yeah,
really, it's really important to up fiber, especially in that last week. Just because, your hormone, your progesterone's on the rise, right? So when you can also experience like constipation during that time, and like you really want to have those cravings for those refined carbohydrates. So eating a lot of fiber and protein during that time is really important, because that'll help, boost energy levels and keep you regular. So that's good.
Yeah, I mean, that increased constipation around or looser stools, because it happens both ways, right? Looser stools, harder stools around premenstrual time. So you're using it's your progesterone side of the cycle. And if you are needing the progesterone for more dominant progesterone, you have less that you can convert down to cortisol for that natural anti-inflammatory effect. Or it can fluctuate. It can go both ways. You can pull your progesterone down to make more cortisol, not have enough progesterone. And then you have symptoms. Common symptoms of low progesterone are irritability, obviously PMS, acne, and headaches. So very inflammatory conditions, right? So you're in that inflammatory progesterone cortisol side. And so it makes sense that you might have looser stools, harder stools as a reaction to inflammation, and pelvic pain, cramping, all of that. So just think there's more inflammation going on. So it's requiring more progesterone. And so it's really stressing that pathway. It's a good pun. It's stressing the stress pathway. So more fiber help to alleviate constipation, more magnesium help to calm your muscles and the cramping, fish oil to help soothe inflammation further.
I think that's such a good, I feel like a lot of the education point on how the bowels do change around that time, because lots of people don't really realize that with that progesterone, like you said, they really can back up. You can get constipation. So like the magnesium, the hydration, the fiber, and then often on like day 1 of your period or day before with all the prostaglandins and the inflammation to get everything out, then the looser stools come. So part of it's just normal through there, but this is how we support it with like the magnesium, the fish oil, all that stuff.
Yeah. And pulling it back into weight loss, right? Because it's that inflammation. Always address inflammation, always address cortisol imbalance, which helps regulate your blood sugars. And so, just our point is understand the rhythms of your cycle, understand when you might need more augmentation of certain things to support your natural rhythms. Yeah. Your natural rhythms can deplete you in ways. So what do they need more of at that time and help your body?
Exactly. So you don't, rely on those, oh, I want that cupcake, I want that pizza, that'll help too, of course, with weight loss, right?
Yeah, a big distinction between naturopathic medicine and conventional medicine is we're giving things to you to help your body function at its best, to help nudge your body to do it for yourself. Like
to do, right?
It's not a medication, or it's not going to do it for you. We're going to stimulate your body to do it itself. And so that's that whole nourishment piece. So nourish your normal body rhythms and function. And I think, it might be a hard message for people here right now that for you to lose weight, you have to get back to your normal natural rhythms. Yeah, it's so important. I remember a book I was reading that was encouraged to me by a naturopath I saw, The Path of Practice. And it was about a woman who was diagnosed with cancer. She was living in the heart of New York as a designer and was just living the life of busyness, stress, overdoing, all hours, all like different stimulus on the body. And then when she got her diagnosis of cancer and she was going through treatment, nothing was really working. And so then she actually saw that, okay, I just don't want to go downhill here and everyone see me. So I'm just going to leave. I'm going to go out to a cottage in the woods, like get back to nature, but be there quietly. And so when she was there, she was actually from India. So India, with Ayurvedic medicine as part of their foundational medical practice or approach and understanding, she started to have a lot of dreams about back home and about her dad and about living off the land. And so she started to do that. And I mean, it's a real book. The author wrote this, it's her story. She came back into the city and just the cancer, I'm pretty sure the cancer was gone. And so that's pretty crazy. It's just, you can go read it too, The Path of Practice, but learn to live in your natural rhythms is the big take home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also when you're out of your rhythm, do you crave more? Do you eat? Do you go for cravings? You have a fight with your partner and then you want to go eat whatever to soothe. And it's like, that's because it's something else.
So never the food. It's always something else.
Yeah, learn your own expression of emotions and understanding your body. I had another woman come in today. This was such a beautiful visit. She's in her 70s, going through significant stressors at home, mood changes, brain fog, weight. It's a 70-year-old woman. She's not caring so much about gaining weight, but she's definitely noticing. I'm just completely off balance. She's a therapist herself, so absolutely understands the stress impact and when you can't communicate. And all I wanted to do in that visit was help tap her back into self-nourishment. And she said, I'm eating terribly. When we probed deeper, what does eating terribly mean for you? It's that she's not eating anything and then she's having chocolate. And so she's just not feeling like nourishing herself, but really in order to heal, in order to move forward, she's got to tap back in to that nourishment for herself to then be able to manage all the other stressors that are in her life. So everybody has stress. You can't hide from that, but how are you managing it?
How you perceive it, really, that makes the difference. It's not going anywhere, right? It's how you internalize it and spit it back out.
Yeah, how you can sit with it.
Support yourself through it.
Yeah, and therapeutic presence. And so what you need to eat in ways, but having a friend, a partner, and maybe not even a friend, it's where we come in is objective, where we're there to help you, and to support you. And if we say, like, we find it's not effective to give rigid meal plans. It's organic. We give you ideas. We give you a flow, and then you will find your own rhythm with that. And then you'll be excited to share with us what you tried, what you made. And then you build momentum from there. So it's really that therapeutic space that makes you stick to your plan and keep going. And you get to the point of enjoying your health.
Yeah.
So we want you to, again, not think about what food you're eating really. That we'll give you a meal plan and we'll help teach you awareness. But really, you'll know you're in the groove when you're just thriving off of what you're eating. You're just grabbing and picking the nutrient dense foods. You're understanding and appreciating your body.
I love that the question too of like for me, I always think like that feeling satisfied, you know, like you eat a meal and like you have that like satisfaction from it on kind of like all fronts. Like, yes, your hunger needs are met, but you enjoyed what you ate, you feel good, and then you just don't think about it until until the next meal, like you said, Dr. Tara, because you can get into it, the thought of constantly thinking about food, but there's so many other things in this life to be thinking about. So just feeling like learning what and we help you do that to really help learn what feels really good for you.
Yeah, definitely. So let's see the questions we're getting. Let's go into, sorry, my mouse not working. I'm going to go. Okay, so I'm able to lose weight in all other parts of my body by exercising regularly and eating healthy, but the belly fat just doesn't budge. So any hormone related explanation?
Cortisol.
Yeah. Well, and you touched on estrogen for that too.
Yeah. It depends. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So, how would we help this person? So they're doing everything. They're exercising regularly. They're eating healthy, but they can't lose the belly fat.
Well, we could ask about like stress levels in their life, the last few kind of months, years, how you're managing that. What phase of your life are you in? Like, are you perimenopausal or menopausal? All those kinds
so
of
that
questions.
Anonymous attendee, if you can share with us some of those further details on that, that would be great for us to help you further.
Yeah.
And often, so that stress piece, to explain it a little bit further, if you're high stress, you're eating well, you're exercising. Some people are over exercising. They're actually
for sure
with that. And when I see that belly in here where I'm thinking, gosh, okay, how are we going to help this person lose that belly? A lot of times it's about getting back to basics, getting back to what time are they waking? What time are they sleeping? When are they eating? What are they eating? What is their job like? Are they moving during the day? And so, when you start to tease that out, but therapeutically, that's where we can see changes there. And a lot of times too, it's about increased activity. Just keep more activity. We get stagnant. And then we, maybe we're good for one day of eating, but for 7 days or 6 days, not. So you're not going to lose weight with that. So you really have to create this activity, consistent activity for that to actually lose that weight over time.
Yeah. And I always like to break it down into like the movement, like the movement and the exercise, because you want to be like moving daily. Like you said, like we're not so many of us are working sedentary jobs and sitting all day. And like, you don't think that getting those steps out can make a difference, but they actually can. Even getting a couple thousand more steps a day can significantly make a difference over time. And then having that exercise time that you can fit in a couple of times a week, but a lot of people are able to do that, but they go, maybe you work out at the gym or at home now 30 minutes 3 times a day, but then if you're not moving and walking the rest of the time, it does that out.
This goes back to what I said earlier today. Just I think when we were waiting for you, Dr. Keara, I was just saying you get this question a lot. I was saying to Dr. Tara, like, I do everything right, what am I doing? Like, you get that a lot in practice, right? And I think I was saying to her, I agree. It's looking at your stress levels, looking at those external factors. It's also looking inward. I think sometimes we don't want to do the internal work. We're not therapists or anything, but sometimes you just got to look in and see what's going on there too. And then things might start to change.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I also really like the Apple Watch or a device. And I know there's other reasons not to, but it can teach you. So, there's the Apple Watch program has 3 rings, and it is actually really in line with mindset, movement, micronutrients. So it's your exercise, it's your movement, and it's your stand hours. So you need to stand every hour. You need to get up and move and invigorate and get things, moving in your body, refresh your state of mind. Exercise, yes, good to get in a day, especially when you're wanting to lose weight, but also that movement piece. And so if you can have some sort of tracker to look at how many steps you're taking, how much movement you get, that can be a good motivator for you to really see what's going on.
For sure.
Taking that focus away from nutrition into activity.
Movement.
Yeah.
Activity.
Okay. Other question. So are hormones causing weight gain? I think we've really touched on that. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes. Then my weight gain is from massive stress. Plus I'm in my 40s, late 40s. I want to lose the 15 pounds I gained in the last 12 months due to stress. So absolutely balancing out that stress piece, the adrenal stress. We call it the HPA axis, your hypothalamus pituitary adrenal axis. So all you need to know there is adrenal brain. There's a connection there and the thyroid mixes in, but certainly we're patching up that. But I like to look at in 40s and when hormones are changing and when at micronutrients for mitochondrial stimulation, right? So get your cells working.
Yeah.
That will give you more energy. Then you'll have more energy to move. And it just kind of all comes together that way. And I know with this person, we are working on that. And so keep micronutrient replenishment, keep, working on that stress piece and then up your activity. And you'll see, yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
No, I was just going to say, I think this is kind of what all just is a good example of how everything kind of ties in together. It's so, I guess the three main, when people talk about weight loss, I think the three main organ systems that you really need to support. I mean, obviously, I like to start with digestion, so I think that's the root of all things. So that's A, but then also it's like your liver, your adrenals, and your thyroid. And funnily enough, those are all the things that make your hormones balanced or imbalanced, right? So there's definitely a connection there. So yeah, definitely you can support all those things.
Yeah. Keara, this is a great question for you. I'm an anxious eater. I tend to snack a lot when I'm anxious. How do I avoid this?
Yes. So I think that this is something that so many of us deal with in terms of the emotional eating and that feeling, because there's a couple things here, like with the cortisol piece and things like that. Like if you go too long without eating, then your insulin levels can drop, your glucose levels can drop, and you can feel anxious. That can be part of it. But I think that really it's looking at the bigger, the underlying cause of the issue. So, what's, the anxiety is coming up for a reason there. So what is that you're anxious about? What are you afraid to look at or to deal with? And it's about bringing in some other helpful coping mechanisms, right? Ways to kind of manage the anxiety and stress and things like that come in. And, food can be a way, if you've had a really, really stressful day and you're like, I'm just going to really enjoy this chocolate cake tonight. Like, I just really want to enjoy it with my partner. Like, it can definitely be a way to kind of bring some emotional soothing in. But I also think that we need other tools as well, right? So it's like, would it, if you're feeling really anxious and you're going for something to eat, this taking a moment, just a breath to think, am I actually hungry right now? Or what am I thinking? Like, are there thoughts going on? And then how can I best soothe myself and support myself? So maybe it's going for a walk outside in nature. Maybe it's having a bath. Maybe it's calling a friend or something like that. But knowing that, just kind of creating that toolkit of things that can help you manage the emotions that we feel. Because we all feel so many different emotions. And sometimes we do eat because we're afraid of feeling the emotions that are coming up. So I think it's kind of trying to dig a little deeper into what's coming up for you and what the different kind of tools are that you have to manage them.
Yeah. And I'm, it's really hard in the moment when you're reaching for something and you're feeling anxious. It's really hard to stop and say, what am I feeling right now? Well, whatever. But if you can create a space and even a conversation with a health provider, right? And you can talk through those examples of what happened and
definitely
what led. It does lead you to more awareness. So you might not be able to solve it in the moment, but you can create more awareness on, and then you can choose differently. So one woman in our Hormone Harmony was saying, I was really stressed. Something happened with my daughters. And then my husband came in and he had brought chips or something. And he said, hey, or no, it was chocolate muffins. And he said, do you want one? And normally she would say, yeah, she would have gone to it, but she said, no. She went and she made a chia pudding, blueberry, like something that was super nutrient dense. And she was so proud of that in our coaching call today. And it was amazing because it was case in point of, she always knew she could eat that before, but by being connected with us, it changed her action. She maybe, you know, as a mom of 2 kids and her husband and always nourishing others before herself, she had a bit more backing to say, no, I don't want that. And then she went and did what she wanted and felt better for it. So
it's like, it's the awareness there that, you know, and that gets easier with practice. It's really hard in the beginning, but the more you kind of practice this stuff, the awareness comes up. You know, that slight breath that you take in between the action of grabbing it. Creating that space. And then, either you make the other decision or you make the decision to eat it and there's no guilt attached. Like you eat it with compassion and love for yourself, and then you move on. I
actually said to her, you know, that's we talked about how positive that was, but hey, you know what, if it happens again and you do end up going to the chocolate muffin, that's also, you know, that builds you to create more awareness on the other side. So and one last question I see here, I don't have a set dinner time. Does it matter if I'm not consistent with the times I eat? What do you think? Because I'm guilty of this. I don't have consistent meal times, I admit, as much, but I do other ways of seeking rhythm. So does it really matter the times of day you eat? What do you think? Help me.
I think again, like, I think it totally depends. Like, I think if you find yourself that over, like, you're checking in with yourself at the end of the day and you're noticing, oh, I am getting to this place each day where I'm like starving because like I went way too long without eating, then it's probably like, okay, I need to like build in like a bit of consistency. How can that help? Or you find that your evenings are just getting away from you and you end up eating like at 10 o'clock at night and then you're trying to go to bed and you can't sleep well. Then maybe you need to bring in a bit more consistency. But if you feel like, you know, your body just actually doesn't work best eating like the exact, you don't want to, like, if you set a time each day when to eat and then you get to that time, you're like, I'm not even hungry for dinner if it just doesn't work. I don't think it needs to be like exactly if what you're doing is working, but just ask yourself, like, does this feel, you know, is there anything that,
absolutely. I love that. It's just about listening to the body, talking about it, creating your steps. So we've shared a lot of information here. There's so much more. There's so many more questions to answer that hopefully more will keep coming in as well. As we said, we are monitoring our Facebook page. Just we want to keep engaging this type of knowledge. And so if you have not yet done your 15-minute connection call with us, please do so. We are encouraging everybody who is listening to this to book this by Friday. The deadline is by Friday midnight. And so all you have to do is email us to say you're interested. It doesn't matter when it gets booked for. We just want to know who's interested. Okay, so share with us your top tips and insights you learned from today. And let's keep the conversation going. Thank you so much, Dr. Keara and Thalia. And we are your Hormone Challenge team.
Thanks, guys.
Have a great evening, everyone. Have a great dinner.
Enjoy your dinner. Bye.
Bye.